America is a country that was built by immigrants, some who brought their talent, and others who found themselves while pursuing their dreams in a new land. Here is one story about the life of a modern-day immigrant.
Hello, Здравствуйте. My name is Lynne Charny, but Charny was originally Chernova. My mother and father met on, называется, медицинский факультет. My father was from, it was called Ekaterinslav, then it was changed to for the Dnieper Dam. And they met in medical school in Odessa. My mother was from Odessa. Then she had a brother that lived in New York already, and he brought my mother and her sister to the United States. My father escaped to China, and interestingly enough, he was a doctor already, but he started a bus line where there was no transportation on a big avenue in China for a while. He was very enterprising, my father. I always said wherever he would land on his feet. And so he ran this, and then he finally came to New York. So I was born in Manhattan, and my first language was Russian, because that's what they spoke at home. Strangely, two educated people, doctors, never taught me to read and write. And I am so lazy that to this day I cannot read or write. My son took a course one term, he can read and write. I went to what was then the Soviet Union many years ago with a group from the Television Academy, and all the rest of them learned to read print. So they would read all the signs, and I would tell them what it meant. And we went to Moscow, Leningrad, Kiev, and Odessa. And I went specifically because this group was going to Odessa, because I'd always heard about Odessa in my home. There's a song, I don't know if you know the song, «Я вам не скажу за всю Одессу». Вся Одесса очень велика, но и молдаванка, и пересы обожают костюмы рака. Что-то в таком роде. Does anybody know that song? Well, anyhow, so I went to college in Wisconsin, and I eloped from college with a very sweet, dear young man who was originally from Westchester, but at this point his family were living on Riverside Drive and 90th Street, and I grew up on Riverside Drive and 113th Street. Columbia University now owns that building and has their professors in it. But we had to go all the way to Madison, Wisconsin to meet and elope. What else? So I majored in theater at the university, but I didn't finish there. Then I went to Columbia University for some courses, and I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Art. And all this time, oh yes, when I was in school, they made me a listener because my voice was too deep and I couldn't sing with the girls. So they made me a listener, which certainly makes you think that you can't sing. But ultimately, I wound up, I had a friend that wrote reviews. Reviews are shows that consist of sketches and songs, and so you have to sing a little bit if you're in a review. So I sang, and people started saying to me, "Oh, I love your voice," which was a revelation from somebody who thought of herself as a listener, suddenly to be told that somebody liked my singing voice. And eventually, I wound up on Broadway in 2 musicals by 2 of America's greatest composers, Jerry Herman, who wrote, for example, Hello, Dolly, and John Kander, who wrote, among other things, Chicago. So for a listener, that's pretty good. I don't know what else to tell you about. I have enjoyed being on Broadway, but I have also very much enjoyed doing cabaret shows, because with a cabaret show that's in my control, I can make an audience feel like crying 1 minute and 5 minutes later laughing. And that's a very powerful aphrodisiac, having that ability to do with an audience. So that's been a great favorite activity. I've been married twice to wonderful husbands. One, the one I told you about, Ralph, who became Raphael many years later upstate, where he had a radio program and wrote for the newspaper, etc. And he is the father of my son. I have a wonderful son named Anthony, Tonino Mio, and Ralph and I were divorced, but remained very good friends. 3 years after that, I met a tall, dark, handsome Frenchman named Ralph was Ralph Mark, and he became Raphael. And I have a wonderful, talented granddaughter who is named Raffaella. What else? Tony, my son, very talented. Among other things, he won an Academy Award for being one of the producers of a film called The Hurt Locker. What else?
How did you meet your first husband?
A blind date. Don't let anybody tell you that blind dates are no good. Because I went to a party. There was a man there who said, "Can I see you home?" I was very glad of that. I said, yes. Then somebody said to me, you know, he's married. Well, I said, I don't go out with married men. He said, well, I'll just see you to the door. I said, well, if you understand that, okay. So he took me home. The next day he called me. I said, I told you I don't go out with married men. Don't hang up. Don't hang up. I want to introduce you to my wife. You'll love my wife. But will you go out with a friend of mine? I said, is he married? He said, no. Fact is, this man was legally separated, but he wasn't divorced. It's a good thing that I didn't know that, because I would have said no, but he just said, when I said, is he married? He said no. So I went out for the first time with this tall, dark, handsome Frenchman with a French accent in New York. And we fell in love that very night. The next day he went to his atelier on 57th Street. He was the leading rare violin, viola, and cello expert and dealer in the United States, and his family since the 17th century in France. He went to his office and he said, I met the woman I'm going to marry. They said, you said you're never going to marry again. He said, well, I changed my mind. And then it took us 6 years before he was able to get a divorce and we were able to marry. But we went that Christmas to Paris. I met his parents and his brother, who ultimately became a French ambassador, and they were wonderful to me. And they just introduced me to everybody as their daughter, and it was a very happy, lucky happenstance. I know that my first husband came to New York. My second husband, whose name was, the first one was Ralph Mark, who became Raphael. And my granddaughter is named Raffaella for him. My second husband's name was Jacques Francais. Jacques P. Francais. So Jacques called me one day and he said, guess who came to see me today? Who? Raphael. And he said to me, you better be very good to Lynne, because you're never going to meet another woman like her. I think that's just phenomenal. First, that my first husband would say that, and second, that the man who 6 years later I was able to be married to, or to whom I was able to be married, because I put my prepositions in the right place, would repeat it to me. I feel that I'm a very lucky woman in that respect. I think I've been a very lucky person in general in my life. I remember when I was in college and the girls would sit around and say, I'm not going to do this like my mother. I'm not going to do that like my parents. And I would say, I hope I'm half as good a parent as my parents. I felt very lucky. I have a mantra. My mantra is gratitude, attitude. I am grateful for so many things, starting with my mother and father, with my friends. I have had wonderful, wonderful friends. And since I am so old, many of them are dead now. Two in particular, their daughters are now my friends. So I really have had a charmed life in many respects, both professionally and privately. I think I'm a very lucky person. I'd start by, there was a fellow named Robert Allen Bernstein. He and his wife were my best friends. Their oldest son, Jed, was for a while the head of Lincoln Center, and he and my son are very, very close friends. Anyhow, Robert put me into everything he ever wrote. And started out with reviews, which, as I said, require you to sing. And that's how suddenly I became a singer, too. There was I can't think of his name now, a very famous actor who had the leading roles in many of Jerry Herman's shows. And he called Jerry Herman and said, "You have to see this Charny girl. She out Romano's Romano." There was an actress named Jane Romano, very talented, and she was their favorite. And when this actor, I wish I could think of his name, a very famous actor, to people in the theater famous, she out Romano's Romano, Jerry Herman then came to see me in this little review in which I appeared. And as a result of that, he then called me and he said, "I've been asked to do a review in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Would you be interested in appearing in it?" I said, "Of course." And then he called me every day and he would say, "I'm auditioning this one," or "I'm auditioning that one. Have you ever worked with them? Do you want to work with them?" I never had anybody treat me with such respect that they wanted to clear everybody that he was considering hiring, whether it was okay with me or did I like them or want to work with them. That was an extraordinary experience. So that was one thing. Then, so I was in this show in Provincetown, which was written and directed by Jerry Herman, who eventually went on to write Hello, Dolly, among many other things. So that was a wonderful experience. I've had very good luck in being in. Oh yes, where my parents are buried, I have a bench. My father bought a plot that had for 6 people. He had in mind that I would have a husband and children. Well, that didn't turn out to be. So the plot has my mother and father, and I've had a bench put there so that when I go to visit them, I have a place to sit. And on the bench it says, "She played the palace," which is an expression years before my time, when vaudeville was very big. The goal of performers who would play, they would go from California to New York, hoping eventually to play the Palace Theater, which was the biggest thing a vaudevillian could do. The Palace Theater then became a movie theater, and then in more recent years it went back to being a theatrical theater. And the last show I was in on Broadway was by Jerry Herman, called The Grand Tour, and Joel Grey was the star of that. So I have on the bench in the cemetery, "She played the palace," because that was the goal of all the vaudevillians, which I was not. But anyhow, I played the palace. So that's an important thing in my life. My mother and father were fabulous. My mother played the piano by ear. She composed songs. She wrote poetry. She was a doctor. But she gave up practicing medicine from the time I was born, which I consider just terrible. But she remained a very interesting woman. I adored her. She was my best friend. My second husband, Jacques Francais, had an accountant. The accountant, Ezra Schein, said to Jacques, "You know, since you're married to Lynne, you have had very good luck, and you should buy an apartment." So I wasn't going to look for apartments. I said, "If you see something that you like, then you tell me and I'll come and look at it." And so that's how this wonderful, beautiful apartment that I love came into my life, thanks to this accountant, Ezra Schein, who told Jacques to buy an apartment because I brought him luck. So that's wonderful, and I'm so happy with my apartment. And I belong to the Central Park Conservancy, and they kept sending letters, adopt a bench, adopt a bench. And all the benches that were adopted were inside the park, at the playgrounds, and all throughout the park. And I said, could I have a bench on Central Park West that I could see from my window? So they had a meeting, and they came back and said yes. Well, they have to thank me, because since I adopted my bench, all up Central Park West, people have adopted benches. So the park has made thousands and thousands of dollars thanks to my adopting my bench, which is the first bench as you go into, I say it's the entrance to Fun City there, to Tavern on the Green and all the things that go on in the park. But my bench, you know immediately, is the first bench on your left before you enter Fun City. I have a lot of wonderful friends. I think I've said that I feel very attitude about. Yes. And I'm very lucky that I speak both Russian and French. But I'm so lazy that to this day I do not read or write. I'm illiterate in Russian. But I've had a lot of fun with the fact that I can speak it. And I've met many wonderful, interesting people with the fact that I can speak it. I have wonderful evenings in my home where there's this wonderful violinist who turns out that he worked for my husband many years ago, but I met him in a different context. And he worked for Jacques demonstrating violins. And Gregory, his name is Gregory Singer, he's from a very important family in the arts world. His father, Jacques, was a conductor. His mother, I think, was a pianist. He has a brother who's a well-known actor and a sister, Laurie Singer, who is both a musician and an actress, well-known actress. So they're a very interesting family. And Gregory called me one day and said, could my pianist and I come and rehearse in your apartment our next concert? I said, sure. I have a Steinway baby grand piano that was bought when I was 5 years old. My parents thought I would really be a good pianist. Well, I never became much of a pianist, but it's a lucky thing that I have that piano, because I have many wonderful accompanists that play, and we rehearse my shows. And then we have these wonderful evenings almost every week of chamber music with Gregory and Elena, and some other musicians come. And I have met some wonderfully talented people thanks to the piano that was bought when I was 5, which I still can't play, but have the use of. So here I am, and I am 100. I say I am 100 years young. I am not 100 years old. I am 100 years young, and I'm the luckiest of people. I have so many wonderful friends, as I've said, the children of my friends. And remarkably, I don't know how to explain. People say you must have the most wonderful genes. I have the most terrible genes. My mother, my beautiful, wonderful mother, poet, player, piano player, everything. She had cancer, she lost a breast, and she had a bad heart. My father was a diabetic and then had a stroke at the end of his life. Those are my genes. I have no way to explain how it is. I hope I'm not giving it a curse by talking about it, but I have no way to explain my wonderful good luck. Wait a minute, something would. I have no way to explain my wonderful, other than I think it's my interest in other people that keeps me alive. I thoroughly enjoy meeting people, knowing about how many children they have, meeting their children, and I think that's what keeps me alive, and I feel like I'm the luckiest of people in the world. That I am still performing is a miracle. When my son was about 7 years old, he went to the neighbors across the hall and he said, "You know, I was in the car with my father and all of a sudden I could read. It was a miracle from God. No exit." And that's very interesting. No Exit also happens to be the name of a play by Jean-Paul Sartre called No Exit. And it's one of the best roles that I ever had was in that play. In Woodstock, New York, I appeared in No Exit. And there it is, Tony's first thing that he could read was No Exit. I don't know if I've ever told him about that coincidence, but I think it's quite remarkable. And I worked with wonderful people. They like Lee Marvin. Many people know his name. He became a big star. And I did a play on Broadway where I had never done anything on Broadway before, but I read that a play was being done that was starring Claudette Colbert, who was a famous movie star, and it had a character named Anya Petrovna, manageress of the 4th floor Hotel Metropole. I thought, and there was an actress named Luba Malina who was going to play the second lead to Claudette Colbert. I thought I could understudy her if I could get an audition. So I managed to get an audition, trying to get the job of understudy to Luba Malina. And I read with this famous movie star, Claudette Colbert, read with me. And afterward, Howard Teichman, who was the playwright, came and put his arm around me, and I said, "Congratulations." I said, "Thank you." He says, "You don't seem very excited." I said, "Yes, I'm very happy. I'm going to have a job understudying Miss Millett." "No," he says, "you have the part. She's decided she doesn't want to do it." Apparently, Luba Malina decided. She was married to a big shot at the New York Times, and she wasn't interested in having to relearn. Every day Claudette Colbert would change parts of the play. And she decided she was sick of that, and she quit. And suddenly there I had the second lead to Claudette Colbert in this Broadway play. So that was my first, and I thought, oh, I'm made, my career is made. And we played in Boston and New Haven, many places, and I got wonderful reviews. We came to New York, and we did one performance, and it got not such good reviews, and Claudette decided she didn't want to do it anymore. So she said, finished, I'm not doing it. And we were the first play that week. 3 plays opened that opened and closed in one night on Broadway. So it wasn't the fairy tale experience that I expected, but I did have this wonderful traveling to Broadway experience. And that was a play called Julia, Jake, and Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe was Stalin, and it was about the experience of Brooks Atkinson, who became the most important theater critic in the United States. But at that time, he was the Times critic in Moscow. And his wife, Oriana, wrote a book called Over at Uncle Joe's, Joe Stalin's. And then this Howard Teichman, who wrote Solid Gold Cadillac, which was a very important play on Broadway, wrote a play based on it. And that's how I got my first part on Broadway, because Luba Molina decided she didn't want to take direction from Claudette Colbert, and instead of being her understudy, I got the part. So that was a very happy thing, lucky thing. I don't know what else to tell you about. I have had a wonderful career in cabaret, not the show cabaret, in cabarets, singing. And that's a great pleasure for me. And I have this wonderful apartment, and I have a bench outside of the park, which, thanks my granddaughter and my son and my daughter-in-law for their being in my life. And I feel like I've had a very, very charmed, good life. 2 wonderful husbands, a wonderful son, a wonderful daughter-in-law. I stole that expression from a friend of mine who liked her daughter-in-law and called her her daughter-in-law. And I stole that because I like my daughter-in-law. So I call her my daughter-in-law. This is called a kier. I have taught more people, turned them on to kier, which is cassis, which is a fruit liqueur and white wine. That's a kier. And I have converted more people to drink kier than I can count on 4 hands. I love Paris. I love Paris. I love Paris and London. I have many good friends. I have had. Most of them are dead, but I have. And then the south of France, my in-laws, my mother-in-law inherited a villa in the south of France from her father. It's an interesting story. When her mother died, her father remarried. Her father had this grand villa overlooking the Mediterranean in Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat. And it's my Jacques' grandmother had this home she inherited from her father. She died, and it was a villa, and above theirs, just above it, the King of Belgium had a villa. So it was an exceptional villa overlooking the Mediterranean. When her mother died, her father remarried. And when he died, instead of leaving the house to his daughter, he left it to his next wife. That wife left it to the Catholic Church. My father-in-law went to court. The most extraordinary thing, he went to court against the Catholic Church. He was Catholic himself, but to regain the property that he felt properly belonged to his wife. It had belonged to her mother and the parents of her mother, and he won the case. He won from the Catholic Church the property back for his wife. That's just an extraordinary happening. And subsequently, the judge who awarded it to them they became friends, and we used to spend time together. It was really an amazing happening to go to court against the Catholic Church and win the case. My father-in-law was the leading rare violin, violoncello expert and dealer in Paris. The older son, Jean, Jacques' brother, chose not to go into the family business, and he became a diplomat. And diplomats have to furnish their places themselves with their own. They're almost all very rich people, and they furnish. And Jacques' parents went to a lot of trouble to give the best furniture to Jean to furnish the embassy wherever he was. Jacques, who really wanted to be a painter, and he was a very good painter, it became his job to take on the family business, which he did. And then he didn't get along with his father in those years, so he left and came to New York and started here. My good luck that he came here. Ultimately, he got reunited with his father. I remember we went to Europe many times, saw his father many times. But initially, to my good luck, he didn't get along with him, and he came to New York where I met him on a blind date. I think I've told you how I met him and how he went and said, I met the woman I'm going to marry, and everybody said, you said you're never going to marry again. And he changed his mind. We were living together because he had thought he had been married to someone, Wanda. Everyone called her Wanda the Witch. everybody hated her. And he was sure after that marriage that he never wanted to marry again. So he didn't try to get it. He just had a legal separation from her. And then, and in those years, it was very hard to get a divorce. And so ultimately, he would meet with her at the lawyer's. She would give, she wants this, she wants that. He would say yes to everything she wanted, just so he would be free to marry me. And then, one day, and we were going to, and they never came to an agreement, so we were going to marry in France. He was going to get a divorce in France, and we were going to be married there, and I would be his legal wife for anything he inherited, and it would all be in France. And then Jacques calls me one day, he says, go to the bank, to your vault, and get your divorce decree, because we're going to get married in the country. They just changed the law. If you already have a separation agreement, you can get a divorce. The law changed overnight. So Wanda the witch got really screwed. He had been ready to give her his house, to give her money, everything. She got nothing. She got nothing. He automatically, because he had the separation agreement, was able to have a divorce. And we were married upstate in the country. And it was very funny because we were married by an upstate guy, and the guy is saying, and repeat after me, and I thee endow with all my worldly goods. And Jacques said, I am endowed with all my worldly goods. And everybody laughed. And he said, I do the best I can, you know. Yeah. He endowed himself with all his worldly goods on paper, right? But he was very generous. He adored my son. He had 2 daughters, and Tony was the son he'd always wanted. He adored him. He was wonderful to him. And he was wonderful to me. He was really, I had 2 wonderful husbands, 2. Not 1, but 2. I got divorced from both of them, but I got divorced from the first, and that was good. Otherwise, I would never have met Jacques. I had wonderful years, 18 years with each. Funny coincidence, 18 years with each, and then divorced. And if I hadn't gotten divorced from Jacques, I wouldn't have the cabaret career that I then went on to have. So I've had really a charmed life. Everything happened wonderfully. Yeah. I wish everybody to have the lucky life that I have had, including meeting Angelina. I picked her up. Yes, I'm a good picker-upper. I have 2 places that I have picked up such important people in my life. One was in Central Park, a tavern on the green, where I met Angelina, and the other was in a little restaurant called La Boîte en Bois, around the corner from this house. And there, people were sitting across from me, and they were eating in a dish where it said moule. Moule means mussels. So I went over to them, and I said, you know, how are the mussels? They said, wonderful. I said, because I was married to a Frenchman who used to make wonderful mussels, so I never wanted to order them here, but maybe I'll try them. And I don't know what else I said, But Peter, the husband who was not Russian, said, you can speak Russian to Anya. So I said, I must have said something that let him know that I spoke Russian. And from then we became wonderful friends, Peter and Anya, that I picked up at La Boîte en Boîte. So I've had very lucky pickups. Yeah. I don't go out that much. I make, what's the expression? The mountain has to come to Muhammad. I am Muhammad. I want everything has to come to me. And I have wonderful gatherings in my home. I feel so lucky that so many interesting people come into my life, and they want to come and they have a good time. We have wonderful music goes on, and then we have lovely wine and cheese afterwards, and lovely conversation. So it's very, very interesting in my home. I think anybody that gets invited is lucky, because it's a very interesting evening. And I feel very lucky that these interesting people come into my life. So it's a win-win situation. Jerry Herman is very famous. Gregory Singer is from a very prominent family. Gregory Singer, who it turns out worked for my husband, Jacques Francais, demonstrating violins many years ago, but I didn't know him then. I met him at an interesting place called the Coffee House, which was a club to which people like Cole Porter and Noel Coward were members early in its life. And I met Gregory there. And then one day he called and asked, could he and his pianist rehearse on my piano that day? I said, sure. So they came, and then they have been coming ever since then. So instead of being in a cold, ugly studio for which they have to pay on top of everything, they come to my beautiful apartment and play and rehearse, and then we have wine and cheese or other goodies too, with interesting guests. I live here since 1974. Yeah. It's wonderful. I feel so lucky to have this apartment. And I look out of my window, directly across the street is my bench, and I love to, sometimes I see a drunk sleeping on my bench, or I see a mother with her children on my bench. It's a lot of fun to look out the window and see who's sitting on the bench. And that's one of the best. I have two places that I have that bench, and then there's an organization called the Actors Fund, and they have a building. And I have a friend, Honey Waldman, who didn't have any children, and she left a lot of money to the Actors Fund. And they have a living room in that building called the Honey Waldman Living Room. So I said, could I give the Actors Fund $1,000 and have a chair in the Honey Waldman Living Room? I had a meeting. They said, oh, yes. So when I'm dead and gone, unless there's an earthquake, there are two places that will show that I existed on this earth. One is the bench in Central Park, and one is the chair in the Actors Fund building that prove that I've been here. Right. So I'm very pleased with that. Yeah. The theater, I love going to the theater wherever I am. When I'm in London, not anymore, but for years, when I would go to London, I would go to a matinee and an evening show. I had friends in London too, but I love going to the theater, so that's my favorite activity. And then I like lovely restaurants. And I meet interesting people wherever I go. I don't hesitate to talk to strangers, and those strangers become friends. And I feel very lucky that I keep meeting new people all the time. Like Angelina that I picked up in Central Park, a tavern on the green. That was so interesting. I think you commented on my big hat. Was that how?
We were on the same color of dresses.
What?
Same color of dresses.
Oh, what was it? Lavender?
Yeah. Or green, I don't remember.
Oh, green, right. Yeah. Those are my two colors. Lavender and green, and black. Because I think black is the most slenderizing. But the colors that I love, my bedroom is all shades of lavender. I say, in my den, my carpeting is dark brown. And my bedroom, my carpeting is dark purple. And every thread shows, and I say that's why, because I'm obsessive compulsive, and anytime I see the littlest thing on my dark brown carpet or my dark purple carpet, I bend down to pick it up. And I'm convinced that that's a great deal of why I'm still in good physical condition, because I'm bending down and picking up threads, crumbs, whatever it is, in those two bedrooms that have dark carpeting. This is such a good drink. I think it has to be my in-laws in France that introduced me to it here. Yeah. They were wonderful people, my in-laws. They were wonderful to me. Oh, the funny thing is, Jacques had been married to this woman named, what did I say? Wanda. Wanda was an American citizen, but she had a strong Polish accent. And they hated her. My in-laws hated Wanda. They thought she was so terrible to Jacques. But that she was an American citizen. So when they met me, the next day Jacques went and said, "So what do you think of ma petite Lynne? Adorable, charmant, intelligent." So he said, "So you see, not all Americans are terrible." "Oh, but she's Russian." That's what made me acceptable to them, because the French and Russians have had a good relationship for years. Right. So that was funny. What made me acceptable was not that I was an American, but that I was Russian. Yeah. Yeah. My family was from Russia, yes. And my beautiful mother came first. She had a brother here, Volodya, and he brought my mother and her sister, Maya. My mother was Elizaveta, Leah, but they called her Leah, L-I-A, Leah. And her sister was Maya, and their brother Volodya brought them. My father went through China, and then he somehow came to the United States. So they came, I don't know, I'm confused as to why my mother came not as a married lady, because they thought that then they wouldn't let her go, because they wouldn't let one lose my father, who was a doctor. So she came under her maiden name. She and her sister were brought by their brother, Volodya. And my father escaped through China and came to New York. So then they were married again here. Very confusing. I never got the full story. My son knows more about it. I have this wonderful son, Tony, Antonino mio. I have a proclivity for things Italian. Besides Russian, things I like are Italian. But I have a great love of Asian art. That appeals to me. I have a corner in my dining room that is just all Asian art that I enjoy very much. In my cabaret show, I love doing that, but I also loved the last show, the grand tour that I was in at the Palace Theater, because I played 3 different characters. So it gave me a great chance to show variety. I played the mother of the bride, and I played some kind of I don't remember, 3 different characters. Yeah. And I don't know what's the most satisfying, thrilling moment. It's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. When I was a little girl, I loved to sing and perform. Yeah. My mother tells me that I sang when I was 1 year old, or something like that, 2 years old. Happy, happy, happy day. Ella's birthday is today. My mother told me I sang that when I was a baby, practically. I must have been 5 or 6, maybe. No. I have enjoyed doing reviews. I think I'm repeating myself, because in a review 1 minute I make people laugh, and the next minute I make them cry, feel like crying. In my show, too, in my shows in the cabaret room, Don't Tell Mama. I sing in a club called Don't Tell Mama. The taxi driver, when they take me there, they say, but I can tell Papa, can't I? But it's been my kind of home as a performer, that club. where I've had a lot of pleasure performing. There's a wonderful man there named Sidney Meyer. He's been in my life, I don't know how many years. Before that club, he was at a club called Panache. I love that word, Panache, and I really feel there should be a club named Panache. It's such a beautiful name. And so that's it. He's been in my life, Sidney Meyer, forever. Come to a conclusion. What do you say? Yes. So I feel that I have had a wonderful, lucky, fulfilling career. Just wonderful. I've had a wonderful life. I've had 2 wonderful husbands that never stopped loving me, and I never stopped loving them. I have a wonderful son that I adore and who I think adores me. I have a wonderful granddaughter who is so talented, and people say she takes after me, but I hope so. I wish her the greatest success because she deserves it. And I have wonderful friends, and I make new friends. And the children of my friends are my friends. So I'm a very lucky person. I drink to all of you and wish you all as much good luck and happiness as I have had. I cannot wish you more. Here's to you. I've never felt any kind of requirement to fight for my rights, because I've always felt that I've been very lucky that I haven't had to fight to say what I want to say or do what I want to do. I've always been able to do what I want to do. So I haven't had to struggle. As a woman, I haven't had any kind of struggle as a woman. I think there are women that have had hard times and that have had to fight. But I didn't have that. I had husbands that respected me, didn't hold me back, didn't keep me from doing what I wanted to do, supported me. Both my husbands supported me in what I wanted to do. So I've been very lucky. Nobody fought me. Nobody tried to keep me from doing what I wanted to do. Both my husbands were very supportive of my performing life and admirers. Yeah, I've been very lucky. And my son has helped me and supported me totally. I don't know. It's true, I have felt loved by many men. I've been married only to 2 of them, but I've had, I have to say, several other important lovers in my life. Really of long-standing. I think part of it is that I gave back interest and care, and that I was fun to be with, I think. I think, you know what? I would have to be a stick of wood not to be an interesting person. I would have to really be an idiot, because I have had the good fortune to have such an interesting life. Therefore, I have to be an interesting person. If I If I were a stick of wood, I would not be interesting, but I'm not a stick of wood. So I have absorbed from all these interesting people that I've had in my life, playwrights, directors. They hang on my walls. My apartment is not done by a decorator. My apartment reflects my life, and everywhere you look, you will see a poster, a program, of some other piece of work or art done by somebody that's been in my life, that's been interesting in my life, that has added to my life, and to whose life I have added. So I think I have to be an interesting person because I've had such an interesting life. Luckily, I've been very fortunate. I've really had, starting from my mother and father, who were just such charming, interesting people. I like to joke, but it's true. I used to say, all my boyfriends had crushes on my mother, and all my girlfriends had crushes on my father. But it's really the truth. They were an adorable, interesting, charming couple. And everybody that met me, that met my parents, thought more of me after they met my parents. I don't think they were teaching me. They showed me by the way they lived their life to enjoy your friends, value your friends, appreciate your friends. I saw they used to have the most wonderful times in my home. When I was little, I saw such good times going on in my parents' home. They had these fun friends, writers, singers, pianists, and it was always, when they would have a gathering, it was so interesting, and they didn't make me stay in my room. I would be there, and that was the thing. Most of the children of my parents' friends didn't want to be with them. They were the foreigners. They would go to their rooms and close the door, and their attitude was, don't bother me. I was the only one that wanted to be out there with them. I thoroughly enjoyed their company. And they responded back with caring about me. But I loved my parents' friends. I found them so interesting, so delightful to be with. But the other kids didn't. I never understood them. I wanted to be with those people. They were fascinating people. I feel so lucky to have had those people in my life. My parents' friends were just wonderful. And I valued and appreciated them. Yeah.
Amazing.
They were writers, musicians. Many of them were doctors who were also, like my mother, writers and painters and had all kinds of artistic talents, but they were doctors. And they had an organization, I think I'm repeating myself, called the Odessa Society. Yeah. They had the Odessa Society here for many years. And I think I told you they would have a ball once a year. with an orchestra and dancing, and my father and I would dance. He was a wonderful dancer. And I think I told you that he danced, he was hired to be a dancer in the opera in Moscow. Yeah. Because he was nice looking, he looked good in a uniform. So he would be hired to in the ballroom scenes. Yeah. It's a miracle that they met each other. I don't know why. I consider myself to be Jewish because I know my mother was Jewish, and that's what matters. But my father always made me, I always thought he was not, because he would tell me that he would try for the officers that would come around him not to know that he had a Jewish wife. Wouldn't that make you think that he was not Jewish? If he didn't want people to know that he had a Jewish wife because he'd be in trouble. But according to Tony's research, I think he researched that my father was Jewish. Now I remember some story that my father was put to live with some family other than his. His family had money, and they paid to have him living with some family that was not Jewish. My first husband, my second husband was not Jewish. Jacques was not practicing, but raised as a Catholic. But my first husband was Jewish, and his parents wanted my son to be, you know, the bar mitzvah, what a bar mitzvah is? Yes. So his parents paid for him to be bar mitzvah, and interestingly, we didn't live here at the time, but it's around the corner from this building is the temple where Tony was bar mitzvah. And I remember that the rabbi said something about that Tony was an interesting boy. He made some very interesting comment about Tony and what an interesting boy he was. But I consider myself Jewish because my mother was Jewish, and that's what counts. But I had no Jewish upbringing. In our home was Russian. I knew I was Russian. Nowadays it's Ukrainian. Fortunately, they were from Odessa, which is the Ukraine, because we don't like the Russians now, we like the Ukrainians, and they're from the Ukraine, right? But my home, everything in my home was, we had a samovar, everything, I knew I was Russian. Yeah. This is so interesting. I'm feeling, I didn't realize that the stem was so interesting. I love these glasses. I don't know where I got them. My first serious love was Ralph. I don't remember anybody before Tony's father, Ralph. I wonder if that's the first person I kissed. I can't imagine that. I met him in college. Surely somebody must have kissed me before that. But I was 17. So you think somebody kissed me before I was 17? Did I not tell you? I used to hold a cigarette because I thought it made me look sophisticated. But I didn't smoke. So I would hold the cigarette like this to keep the smoke out of my eyes. And I see a guy at the next table. There was a place at the University of Wisconsin called the Ratskeller, where you sat. And I see somebody imitating me. So I got angry, and I gave him a piece of my mind. And he asked me to dance. And we danced, and it was like our feet left the ground. We fell in love instantly. And that happened twice in my life, and I married both those men. Only twice in my life did I meet somebody and instantly not know what planet I'm on, so in love. And the second time was Jacques. How did I meet Jacques? Oh yeah, somebody I met at a party. He didn't, then I was told he was married. Then he called and he said, he has a friend, would I meet him? And I said, is he married? He said, no, and it was Jacques. And I met Jacques, and I wasn't ready when he arrived. So little Tony, he wasn't so little, he was 12, was entertaining him till I entered. I was never ready for a date. They always had to wait for me. And I finally came out. And later he would say, he would be so angry when we had dates. I said, but the night I met you, I wasn't ready. Why did you ever take me out again if it makes you so angry? He said, well, I saw your ankles and I fell in love with your legs. I couldn't help myself. But we would fight every time. I was never ready to go to the country house for the weekend. But he loved me deeply, deeply, and I him. That's Jacques, that's not Ralph. Ralph is from college. Yes, Ralph I met at college. Oh, I told you, he was imitating me, how I was holding my cigarette. And we danced, and that was it. Yeah. I wish I knew how these glasses came into my life. I just feel everything, just like having this apartment, which is so beautiful and so lucky. And it's because some accountant of Jacques said, Lynne has brought you good luck. You should buy an apartment. And then he went and looked, and this was walking distance to his building, which was on 57th Street. And he knew that his parents in Paris walked a lot, and that walking was important. So he wanted an apartment that was close enough to walk, but a good, healthy walk. And that's how he chose this apartment. Then he brought me to see it, and I didn't like, because everybody that we knew that had an apartment, their apartment was you entered and the living room stretched before you and the windows to look at the park. So this was a solid wall behind you. And you walked down the hall and you entered, and this was a bigger room. So I made this entrance here so that when you walked in the apartment, you didn't feel like you were bumping your nose into the wall. That I feel that I'm the luckiest person, that I cannot wish anybody any better than to have my good luck, both with my husbands, 2 wonderful husbands, 2 wonderful men, with my son, a wonderful, interesting son, to my granddaughter, who is fabulous and loves me very much. She says she wants to be me. And my daughter-in-law, whom I love very much and loves me. And I have so many wonderful friends that I pick up like you. You know, I just love people, enjoy them, and interested in them. There's nothing more interesting than my fellow human being, and I like to know about them. Their children, their grandchildren, what they do, what they're interested. That's it. And I'm so amazingly lucky to have had the career that I've had without giving up. Most performers that I know don't have a family life. If they have a successful career, their life is their career. I didn't do that. And still I've managed to have an interesting enough career and still have my son, my granddaughter. I have a family too, and I'm so lucky that I managed my life to do that. If it's not in your, if you don't have an interest in having a family, then it doesn't matter. And many performers apparently don't. But I do. I feel my family are very important to me. I mean, I would feel very sad if I hadn't had my son, from whom I've had so much joy and aggravation and pleasure. And I have such pride in him. He's so accomplished and talented. And my granddaughter, I mean, I imagine if I didn't have them. But a lot of my performing friends don't have that. And I guess they don't miss it. I would miss it a lot. And I feel that I'm so lucky to have this apartment. And that's thanks to an accountant that was Jacques. That's just, you know, how many people have that happen? That some accountant of a man says, Lynn has brought you good luck, you should buy an apartment. That's miraculous. I'm always nervous, will there be an audience? But there usually is. Sometimes I have to do a second show because they can't fit in the whole audience that tries to come. But I'm always nervous. I hope everybody will come on January 7th. I'm doing the show on January 7th because for years, several years now, I've been doing a show on my son's birthday, which is September the 10th, and my birthday, which is April the 1st. So I did a show on September 10th, very successful, and I thought I may not be alive by April the 1st. It's so far away. So I scheduled a show for in between. That's why I'm doing a show January 7th, because I figure at 100, maybe I won't be alive April 10th. Maybe I will, but not April the 1st. Yes. Hopefully I will be alive. But in case I'm not, I'm doing a show on January 7th at Don't Tell Mama, which is my home, my cabaret home. Sidney Meyer is, we've been working together since Panache, where he was. And he's my great supporter and fan. And he's a very talented performer himself, but he doesn't perform. He produces shows primarily, but he's very talented. My daughter-in-law's father should be grateful to me because I have made my granddaughter call herself incorporating his name. Her actual name is Rafaela Angelina Mark, my son's last name. And I say she has to call herself Rafaela Angelina Fiore Mark. So I tell her to incorporate her her grandfather's name, Fiore, which I happen to think is a very beautiful name. It means flower, and it's a beautiful Italian name. And so she is Raffaella Fiore Mark, or Raffaella Angelina Fiore Mark. And I think it flows nicely, it's musical. Yeah, and I say that's where you have the Italians and the Jews on your side. It's a good combination. And she's very talented. And a good person, too. That's important. I think it's very important. It's not enough to just be talented. I think you have to care about people and care about the world and what is going on in the world and what is going on with the people that you meet and know. You have to care about them. It has to matter. Otherwise, what's the good of being alive? Yeah. It's the truth. It's the actual truth. If you don't care about other people, what's the good of your being alive? I think it would be a waste of everything. I feel like the luckiest person. As I'm repeating myself, I know, but I feel I have been so lucky. I still have a friend, Mimi Bookstaver, who lives in New Jersey. She and I went to the university together. That's the person I know the longest. And through Mimi, there was a woman named Sunny who married one of the soldiers that was near when we were at college in Madison, Wisconsin, David Marcello. And Mimi Bookstaver was friendly with him, and somehow we met for lunch about 3 years ago, and now David Marcello is very much in my life. And he is with a magazine, the magazine is in that room. It has an interesting name, the magazine. And he's very much in my life now, David Marcello. So there's an Italian, see. I have an interest in things Italian, but also in things Asian. That's in terms of art. I don't have, I guess I do have some Asian friends. Somebody that plays with Gregory. Yeah, I want to share that I have a wonderful son. I'm so lucky. A lot of people don't have good relationships with their children, but I have a good relationship and I admire my son. I think he's very talented, gifted, not using all his gifts, and that he should be as famous as the most important people in the film industry. He should be as well known, and somehow he hasn't played his cards right, because all his talent is not recognized, which it should be. And I wish that would happen. That's what I wish, that he would become really recognized in his industry as he deserves to be. He's both a talented writer, a talented director, a talented producer. And then I wish my granddaughter to have the success that she deserves, because she's so talented, so very talented. That's it. My daughter-in-law is also very, very gifted, and she's on some kind of a project now that I think is going to be very important. She's very smart and talented too. My daughter-in-law, I call her. I think I've told you that I stole that expression from a friend, from my daughter-in-law. Yeah. I can't believe, can you believe that I am alive and in really good health when my mother died at 68, having breast cancer, lost breast, bad heart. My father died at 85, had a stroke, was a diabetic all my life, and had a stroke. With those two backgrounds of my parents, I don't understand by what miracle am I in this really good condition. I can't understand it. I don't know. I have got I cannot explain it. How is it possible with those two parents and the physical health of those two parents? How is it that I'm in such good Strobnius-Glazit health? I don't understand it. I simply do not understand. I don't know what it is, other than that I think I spread a certain amount of joy to people. I think I create conditions and atmosphere where people enjoy themselves and enjoy meeting each other. That's not enough of a reason to be alive. I want to be alive because I'm having a nice time. And I love meeting people. First and foremost, I want to be alive for the sake of my son and for the sake of my granddaughter, that I think I'm a good somebody to have in their life. I think it's good for them to have me in their life as long as I'm not a burden to them. I don't want to be alive to 105 because I don't want them to have to take care of me. I don't want anybody to have to take care of me. So I only want to be alive for as long as I can manage myself. So I don't know how much longer that will be. I'm astounded that I am still alive and in relatively good condition. Is a miracle, as I said, a miracle from God. Have I told that story about how Tony said that? It's a miracle from God. No, he could read a miracle from God, no exit, right. And that I played in the play, no exit, right. Anyway, it's a miracle from God that I'm still alive, and I don't know how to explain it. Nothing in my family history would expect me to be alive now. It's a miracle.
We'll find later, probably. It was Tony that was glad. Is this Tony?
Yes, that's Tony and me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we found it.
Here's a nice picture of my mother
Okay.
right here. That's Tony down there. Wait, let's get out of his way. I wonder if doing draw. I want him to take this as Jacques and me. And that's my father. I was there. Over there, it's interesting. And wait. Oh, here's my mother. This is a good photo of my mother. Okay, this is an interesting story, Gregory. You see that painting facing you, the young little girl in a frame with a bow? That's kind of interesting. She was Lucille Caressa. It was from Caressa and from Say. They were the leading violin dealers of France. And they each had one child, Caressa, Albert Caressa and Henri Francais. And they had, one had a son, one had a daughter, and they married them to each other. That were my in-laws. But that's her as a little girl, and it was a famous painter, and then that was on the cover of the magazine that's next to it.
Where's microphone?
Is he understanding the magazine cover? Это купили, когда мне было 5 лет, купили это Реаль.
Let's go. You're gonna show us composers, Broadway composers.
Yeah, here's Jerry Herman.
Let's go.
I love this. This is Shallon gave me these two things.
No.
What does this say?
You are
E-
loved.
Yeah. Yes. You see, they say that the difference between a chair and a throne is attitude. So I say my attitude. I grew up with this chair and that piece were in my parents' home. So I say this is my throne. And then I remembered I had pillows. I had a friend that used to buy me pillows that talk like not over there. It says not getting older, just getting better. And this says Her Majesty, which used to sit in the other room. So since this is my throne, I put the pillow Her Majesty on my throne. Yeah.
Because you are Majesty.
Right. And that clock was in my father's office, the clock up there. And it says, in French, it says on it, together we stand, but here's my father. I love that photograph of my father. Can you hold it in front of his cow?
Yeah.
That picture I love.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Это мой отец.
This is your father, right?
Dr. Chernov. Samson. Yeah, Ella Samsonovna.
Ella Samsonovna?
That's my real name.
Your real name.
Ella.
Ella.
No. And where's that other picture? Give me that again.
With whom?
Give me that.
This one?
Yes, because this is the picture of my mother that I like. Взяли
Yes.
Это красиво.
And mother and father together. Oh my God.
Where?
Here, like, you can see them together.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And who is this?
That's my father in a hammock in the country. So I put that there. Stupid. But she was beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous.
I don't look anything like her. But they say I had her manner.
I can tell.
Yeah. Again, that's Jacques. I second. But I want a good picture of Ralph.
We'll find out later. Yeah.
Where would I have a picture of Ralph?
And here is Jacques, right? This is
Jacques, yes. But where is Ralph and where is Tony? Didn't we find what's up there? What is
Tony and you?
Yes, that's me and Tony. Yeah.
Can we should have?
But I would like a nice photo of Tony by himself, a better word. Please, thank you.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what I did. Why don't I have a nice shirt? Here's my mother and father and me. Look. That's cute.
That's cute. Here?
No. Here as well. Get that picture.
This one?
This one, yeah. So that's Ralph.
This is Tony with his daughter.
Yes. Yeah, good.
Good? I found?
Right.
Can you turn to camera and say that this is Tony?
This is my beloved first husband. No, it's Tony of my son. Oh my God. Where am I? This is my beloved son Tony with his daughter Raffaella when she was little.
Raffaella Angelina.
Raffaella Angelina Fiore Mark. Right.
I didn't know that her second name Angelina.
Yeah, that's her middle name.
Middle name, right?
Raffaella Angelina.
Raffaella Angelina.
And this is so, because I think this is very interesting to have that painting and that magazine cover. Right. Right.
Okay, we good.
We
got
Tony
something.
there. We got Tony there.
Yeah, we got. We good, my love.
Tony.
So,
This is Ralph.
and this is you with those composers, Lynne.
What do you just say?
And this is you with composers.
Jerry Herman.
Yeah, this is Jerry Herman, who write, what else he write? Chicago?
Tony back there.
Okay.
Jerry Herman wrote Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
And many other things.
And where is Chicago composer? Where?
He Kander. Wait.
Where is Kander?
John Kander is here. Here is John Kander.
Okay. Where is Robert Redford?
With my granddaughter.
Oh, nice. I like him. Robert Redford, please.
I don't know who we have here. Here we have Tom Stoppard.
Oh.
Here's my mother and father and me.
And then you and Tony was wedding?
What?
And this is Tony during his wedding party?
Right. I have no idea.
You look fabulous, as always.
I wonder how many years ago. I don't know. I still have that dress and wear it for special occasions.
Special occasions?
Yes.
Who is this guy?
But that's Mel Howell. He was a boyfriend.
He was a boyfriend.
No, he's the one who bought me all these pillows.
Thank you, boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the famous critic Rex Reed over here. Over here, back here.
And who is this?
That's me.
Nice. Look at you.
What else? What are the two little frames there?
And this one also?
Oh, that's me and Jacques, I think. I can't see it so dark. Yes, that's Jacques and Lynne. What's so faded, my God. Well, do you remember where this came from? I don't.
Yeah, I do. I can tell.
Okay. This is a famous artist. You see that little statue?
Mm-hmm.
You look up the name Penne. Peynet.
Mm-hmm.
Look up Penne.
Okay. I'll do.
In my kitchen, there was a drawing by Penne, but he also did sculpture. This a friend had, and it was broken in 6 pieces. I spent an entire night trying to glue it because it broke where the man is on his toes. And that's this body and these little toes. It was so hard to make it glue. It's kind of leaning. It's a great accomplishment that I have, but you look at Peynet.
Okay.
And if you look in the kitchen, right where the toaster is, there's a Penne drawing also. You should take a picture of.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Don't you think these two are beautiful? The trees up there, I love them. They're my favorite of all the Christmas trimming. I love them the most. That's from Debbie Dam. Do you know Debbie? You can meet it. Oh, you have to meet her. She's very important in my life. Yeah. How did I meet Debbie? I don't know. How in the world? Oh, I know. I was getting ready to do a show at Don't Tell Mama, and I was waiting outside because mine was the late show. So I was sitting outside the room, and out comes this pretty dark-haired girl, and she sits down next to me. We start to talk. She says, she said, I can't remember the name of somebody Fiorentina that she went to hear. And that singer said to her, you should really stay for the next show. Julie loved her. It was Lynne Charny, and Julie loved her. Julie was very famous, very important. That's her picture there, Julie Wilson. Julie loved her.
This one?
That there with the flower.
Yeah.
That's Julie Wilson.
Happy birthday, Lynne.
Debbie was very close to Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Julie took her to Paris with her.
Okay.
She was very important to Julie. I was an admirer of Julie Wilson all my professional life. And finally, somebody brought her to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
And she liked me. And one of the greatest regrets of my life is that I erased from my phone a message. She had a deeper voice than me, and it said, Lynne, when are you going to do another show, Lynne? I loved your show, and I want to hear you again, Lynne. And following that message was the first message my granddaughter ever left me, Gamma. And I erased those 2 messages. So I don't have them except in my head. Nobody else can ever hear them. But Julie Wilson left me that message. And for me, for this famous Julie Wilson to let me know that she liked me was so important.
Of course,
and I erased it. So Debbie Dam was very close to her. And she is now my very good friend, Debbie. Debbie decorated the tree, brought the lights, brought those 2 trees that I love up there. They were from Debbie.
I'm bringing this chair back.
Yes.
Okay. We done.
Thank you. I can't wait to see it. Oh, yes. So on here, on that, look on there, on that music stand.
Okay.
Isn't there a big article?
This one?
Show me that. Yeah, and what else is there? Why did I want to show this to her?
There is a newspaper.
Oh, this was in the Post, yes. Icon makes 100th was New York City show. Yeah, that was a big article.
Yeah.
Wait, and does it goes on, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. No. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the article.
Okay.
To read it again. And then this was the New York Post.
Mm-hmm.
Did this whole big, they came here and look at how big a thing they did about me.
Nice.
All this picture. What? 1.
1, 2.
No.
Yeah. This second one, and this is third one. Nice.
That's my brother. That's Sidney Meyer. 1, 2. That's with Jacques. 3, 4. 5. I don't know why I counted 7 once, but I guess now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. This little table that's there, it's only part of the table I had when I was a child.
This chair?
No, the little table
Oh, yeah.
that had flaps on both sides, which I don't have anymore, but it makes a perfect side table. I'm talking about right where Gregory is standing. That little table was mine and my bedroom as a child.
This is throne of Her Majesty.
Huh?
This is throne of Your Majesty while I'm sitting right now.